over here in Willow Springs again, but we're fighting with hours today. Over here, coming off this big storm that went through here and makes some fantastic sunsets. But what hasn't been fantastic is my hours. But if you know how to work a restart, work a recap, excuse me, not a restart, work a recap, 70 hours is still 70 hours, so let's go over some things. This is what I got left. This is what I'm picking up tomorrow. Here's the thing. It's been pretty mediocre all week. 732, 722, 832, 6, 754. Whoops. So, nothing really big, but this doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. I'm 275 miles from where I have to deliver. About 4.5 hours, give or take. We'll round it up closer to 5. But tomorrow's Sunday, so it'll be closer to 5, but it'll go a lot smoother. We're getting up really early in the morning. Got to go down through the woods once again. However, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So I'm recapping hours and I'm rolling them over. But one of the things that you can do is you can start banking your hours. Don't get me wrong, I like a good restart as much as everybody, but everybody seems to think that once you get your hours tapped like this, now don't get me wrong, if you run full 11s 5 days and you get that 6th day, it's about 5.5 days you're done. You're going to do a restart whether you like it or not. But if you run hours like this, like I have, this is where a little bit of planning comes in, but this is where you need to, if you got a dispatcher who knows how to go old school, you can make a lot of money doing this. Years ago, back when they were just screwing with the hours of service instead of leaving them where they should have left them, yes, I'm that guy. I went ahead and I didn't. They changed the hours to where you had to have 2 periods of 1 to 5 to get a 34-hour. And, your 34-hour, your restart could end up stretching. If you went 1 minute past 1 o'clock in the morning, that didn't count. You had to do another one. You could last 48 hours trying to get your hours back. And I remember one time I was talking to my dispatcher, and she was an old school dispatcher. I said, let's just go old school. This is stupid. She's like, what? I said, this is stupid. I said, let's go old school. She said, what do you mean? I said, we didn't have restarts 10 years ago. It was 10 years ago then. It's been 20 now. And I said, let's just recap like a son of a gun and see what happens. And truthfully, I went an entire month never getting a restart. I made a lot of money. In fact, when we figured out how to adjust the hours to the freight, it made things a lot more clear and it streamlined the process. So what I mean by streamlining is that when you have these things like this, where you just have a set number of hours, in a way it kind of limits your choice of freight, but while it will narrow down your options a little bit, it actually gives you a very good idea of what you're capable of. So let me show you on here. So right now I have 2 hours and 16 minutes till midnight. Let's scroll up. This is where a split sleeper, if you hit this button here, watch this. Come on. Gives me back what I had because we did a 2-hour break. But yeah, there's no point in that tonight, and we'll go over that here in a bit. So I'm picking up 7 hours and 32 minutes. Now, I've got 2 hours and 16 minutes in the bank with a grand total of 9 hours, 49 minutes. This load doesn't have to be there till Monday. So this is where I got lucky. So I'm going to recap all of this. I'll still have 5 hours at the end of this that I'm going to roll over into this day, Monday. So I'll have 5 hours I rolled over plus 7 hours and 22 minutes. Suddenly I have a full day. I'm not going to use all that. I'm going to roll that over into this. My 8 hours and... Come on, you hillbilly. 8 hours and 32 minutes. We're going to roll into that and roll into that. So if you can roll 2 to 3 hours a night over and just keep building an hour or two, and if you have a down day to where you only work 5, maybe 6 hours, and it happens. So out of that 9 hours and 49, I'm going to roll over, like I said, about 5 hours. We're going to add that to the 7 the next day. Suddenly, that plus what I got after that is going to make for a pretty good week. Like I said, 70 hours in 8 days is 70 hours in 8 days. It doesn't matter how you split it. Now, truthfully, you know as well as I do that freight has deadlines and things of that nature. But you get a load with just a little bit extra time on it, you can roll a few hours over, and you can really save the day. So how did I know how to do all this? Well, I've done this before. A dispatcher calls me up and says, I said before, and when you know your hours are getting low, call your dispatcher first thing in the morning. I'm telling you, first thing. Because you want to give her the option of what to do with your hours before they start making long-term plans and they have to change things. They might have to take you off a load, but what goes on in that office, we never see. I have found out, though, that if one guy gets knocked off a load, you might upset 3 or 4 people. You might upset freight coming back out. So it's good to have a little bit of forward knowledge to the dispatch. So I call her up and tell her, I said, this is what I'm got. I'm not, and this was yesterday. I said, I'm not recapping anything. I said, I have enough for a full day tomorrow, and that's it. Then we're just done. I'm not recapping till Saturday night at midnight, which today is Saturday as of recording, and it's about 8 o'clock. So I'm not going to pick up anything for 4 more hours. But, as you saw, we're out of time. Now, she calls me up and she gives me an option of a couple of loads. She says, well, what would you think about this? She says, I know you got the hours to do this. And I got looking at it and I said, wait a minute. It's Friday. I'll be up there Friday night, early Saturday morning. Turns out it was early this morning. It is X amount of hours down here. I'm going to be rolling over, like I said, about, I was underestimating of 3.5, 4 hours. But I might be able to eke a restart out. So how am I going to eke a restart out of this? Well, this is where PC comes into play. Now, we've heard it all before. PC is very highly abused. But you're getting to your stop early. You get there early and they don't let you park, you can PC out. Place I'm going to doesn't let me park, so I know I can go in there, check in, get kicked out, and then PC back to the truck stop. So when it comes time for me to deliver, I can PC back, get delivered. Well, if I don't have a load, I can actually PC right back across the street to the parking area, go back to bed, and finish out my restart. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you that all companies have their own different rules for PC, how many, this, that, the other thing. I know what the book says, we're not going to go into that. But we follow the letter of the law here where I'm at as closely as we can. So I was told I can do this after they changed the rules 1900 times. So that's what I do. And it seems to work. So, and with the extra day I have on this thing was loaded late Friday night for a Monday morning delivery. I picked it up early this morning. We're here. And I'm 4.5, 5 hours out. So I will be there Sunday morning by, I'm hoping, no later than 9:30, 10 o'clock. So at 9:30, my restart will be done Monday evening at 7:30. Now remember that button I put in there? That button is a great thing. That will allow us to split our off-duty time and our sleeper time, doing a split sleeper berth. Here's the thing. If I got here and I had 5 hours, but I'd run up to my 14 and all that, and I decided to do 7 hours, and then I get the 4.5, 5 hours back after this, after 7 hours, I took a nap, I delivered it. Now, when I get to where I'm going, I have to sit off duty for 3 hours. That's no problem. But what about the other way? Well, if I'm off duty for 3 hours, I actually extend my day out to 17 hours. So, yeah, and then, but on the E-log, the way it is, you have to go into the sleeper berth if you do your break, your 2 or 3 hour break on the first time. You have to do a sleeper berth. If you just go off duty when you get parked, it'll throw you right clean into violation. So that's something to be very mindful of. The split sleeper and all that is not that hard of a concept. It's just a lot of companies are not wanting to, they're just not wanting to mess with it. They'd just rather have their drivers sit. And I don't get that. You know, the wheels ain't turning, you ain't making money. You know. Well, yeah, that's another story. Now, I'll tell you this, I did try to look up some stuff on, you know, on 395, and it's very loosely worded. And if you're not really used to what you're looking at, it's very confusing. Your off-duty and your sleeper berth has to be a total of 10 hours. Now, even with the 3 hour break or the 2 hour break, if you do a 2 and 8 or 8 and 2, that pauses it. So if you were to take that out and put it all together, it can't be more than 14 hours. So if you're stuck 3 hours off duty, that's considered a pause. So it stretches your day out to 17 hours. But in reality, when you get going again, this part and this part equals 14 hours. And you can't go beyond that. That's where a lot of people get in trouble. That's where I got in trouble initially. So I highly advise, if you're going to get into the sleeper berth game and all that, go in there, read the rules, study them. They're going to seem real stupid, convoluted, and you're going to be scratching your head. But basically, your 7-3, your 8 and 2 have to be 2 periods equaling 10 hours. And if you do a pause in the day, the 2 or the 3, your on-duty time and your on-duty time cannot exceed 14 hours. Or a max of 17 hours because you paused it for a maximum of 3 hours in the loading dock. See how confusing that was? But that's the rules. Go look it up and read it at 395. Just do a Google search and I guarantee you'll be confused. But once you really start digging into it, you'll find some threads that'll actually start making it easier for you. Just remember that everything on these e-logs is a violation if you do it wrong. So if you got one of these Samsara units like I have, and it allows you to push the button to show a break, like I've been at 2 hours and 34 minutes, I show, if I hit that button, it'll extend it out 2 hours. Or yeah, but you can't be beyond your 14-hour window once you take the brake out. So like if you were to, like I said, take the brake out and squish it together, it's got to be 14. But play with it. If you're sitting there in a shipper getting loaded for 2 hours and you're eating up your 14, hit that little button and see what happens. You take off after 2.5 hours, you should have the rest of your day. But just don't go beyond a total maximum of on-duty time of 14 hours. So, yeah. A split sleeper is a powerful tool when you need it. Don't get me wrong. If you totally maximize it and everything lands right, you'll destroy your clock. So that's something to think about. But if a split sleeper is going to get you to your delivery a couple hours early, I highly recommend doing that. Or if it's going to get you through town early before rush hour. You know, if I do a split sleeper, I know I'm going through Atlanta and I park, 25, 30 miles out, but I still got 3 hours on my book. If it's 7 o'clock at night when I get parked, means I'm going to be hitting Atlanta about 6. You don't want to do that. Go in the sleeper berth for 8 hours. Boogie through there at 4 in the morning. Because 6 o'clock is actually 7 o'clock for me because I'm on Central Time. So, yeah, that's a whole nother story. So use it to your advantage. These hours are vital, and it's important to maximize every one you can get. Part of the problem is, and I've fallen victim of this too, is when maximizing your hours, you have a tendency to want to really mash the accelerator down. And coming out of a 65 mile an hour truck, before I was a owner-operator, that's actually why this knee is screwed up, because I'll tell you guys, use your cruise. In 65 mile an hour trucks, people have a tendency to get frustrated and really start smashing that pedal as far into the floor as they can. You're not doing anything except grinding the cartilage out of your knee. For the sake of your knees, just use the cruise, back off a couple miles an hour. Seriously, the difference between 62 and 65 is so minute in this game at that level that you're not going to notice it. Back it off a mile, mile and a half an hour, and traffic will drive out of your life. But as for the split sleeper, like I said, it's a powerful tool. I've gotten a lot of mileage out of one day. The closest I've ever come with a split sleeper, and I wish I would have taken a picture of this. I actually did an 8 and 2 split, drove into the day. So this is a 24-hour period. This wasn't in one shot. I had a break in there. I managed in a 24-hour period to get 832 miles out of the truck. So basically, I drove past midnight, did an 8-hour break, got up, drove, got where I needed to go, did a 2-hour break, and then drove till midnight. And I shut right down at midnight because that was the max. It was kind of weird how it worked out. Drove till exactly 2, did an 8-hour split, got up, drove, did a 2-hour break, and then drove all the way to midnight. Most of it interstate, 832 miles. Now my old red truck, it was turned up a little bit, and I remember going through, I left Rawlins. Well, I used to do a Pfizer run out of Kansas City, and I do it at night because if I got to Reno early enough on Wednesday morning, they'd unload me a day early. And I really liked that run, so I'd load up, take off. I could make it from Kansas City to Rawlins in one shot. I mean, we're like right on the edge of it. And I was boogieing across I-80. So I'd get over there to Rawlins, and then that's Monday night. Tuesday morning, I would get up and take off as fast as I could go. Well, the best I ever did was I rolled out of Rawlins early in the morning, and everything worked. And I made it to Fernley, Nevada at exit 57 at 770 miles, just as my E-log went all zeros. And we were in an A-board system there, so I pulled over off the ramp and then eased in. Never done that in one shot ever again. It was a lot of fun. I've done more than that in one day, but we were on paper, and that was a horrible load. Yeah, I had to go from Guyman, Oklahoma to Salem, Ohio. It was about 1,270 miles. I just Googled it just to make sure. I did the first 1,000, and it was 1,076. The way Google says to go is more like almost a straight 1,100 when all was said and done. I did that the first day. I'll tell you what happened. They said I had 3 days to be there, but they got me loaded an hour past deadline on Tuesday and wanted me in Salem, Ohio at 8 a.m. on Thursday. So basically I had Wednesday. So I got up, I drove. I took a 4-hour nap. I drove 1,000, about almost 1,100 miles. Got up, took a 3.5-hour nap at the TA in London, Ohio. Got up and drove the other 260 miles or so into Salem. I made it with a half hour. You know, this is why I'm glad there's E-logs now, because they used to force us to do stuff like that, and they wouldn't pay us detention on the front end. They just blame us for being late. Well, the load was loaded on time. I don't know what to tell you. We're not paying, and you're going to pay a late fee. And I don't haul for that company if I don't have to anymore. It's a horrible place. Just, you know, when they said E-logs were coming into effect, all these companies swore they'd be online and do everything to help us and all that. And the only one that seems like they're doing anything is Tyson, because they get the deadlines out so long. They want you there on a 10 before they load you. But then you lose a whole day, and that's a good way to go broke. So there really is no winning here. With that being said, you know, if you really learn how to work your hours and work your recap, and this is something that you're going to have to just play with. Seriously. You're just going to have to play with, you're just going to have to learn, but you're going to have the support of your dispatch and all of this other, you know, and everybody behind you, because you're going to need their help. Now, don't be like those guys that said, oh, I only run 8.5 days, so I never have to shut down. What a waste of time. That right there will wear you out faster than anything. I mean, you're going to be running around doing just goofy things, getting up at midnight every night, just trying to make a load. You know, if life was perfect and you could do that, that would be great. However, life is not perfect, and you should never do things like that. However, if it works out for you, good for you. But at the same time, you're going to have to figure out a way, as I've said a dozen times, to make these hours work for you. And your hours clock, your recap, your restart, even PC, like I talked about, done properly. Look up the rules for that, because I'll tell you right now, the people in Washington are wanting to take that away from us, and that would be detrimental. I mean, that would be very detrimental. I would lose so much money because of that. It's a valuable help when done properly. But like I said, check out the split sleepers in the Green Book, you know, or Google it. Check it out for yourself. See it in print. In fact, if you don't really believe it on the computer, check it out in the Green Book. The Green Books are available everywhere. You should have one in your truck. You're supposed to have one in your truck. And if you don't have one in your truck, go into your dispatcher and say, hey, you got a copy of the Green Book. I want to look something up. It's easy. So, it's easy. So as you sit here and you navigate these hours and hours of service and things like that, the E-log's not the enemy. It's done properly, it's a powerful tool. I have made more money on E-log than I ever did on paper. And I'm sleeping better too. You wouldn't know it looking at me, but I've been out for quite a few weeks and it's time for me to go home and spend about a week at home recharging, and I have an Oldsmobile to fix. The brakes went out. Imagine that. Ugh. Yeah, and a high school reunion to get ready for because, well, you know, all this sexiness doesn't take care of itself. Anyhow, that's about it. I was looking at my hours today and I was like, you know, I've heard guys ask all these questions and things get real confusing. I hope I've cleared up a little bit of it, but I advise guys to learn how to use these tools. Are here for our benefit. They really are. They will help you along your journey, and done properly, it'll help you make a lot more money and be more efficient at your job. And sometimes it just gets you to a nicer place quicker. That's happened more than twice. So I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. You guys be safe out there, and we'll see you next video.